found that. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's just as simple as typing in the one divided by the other one, then you get the answer, and you're doing it, to make it do it 10 times.
Uh, you make a vector of b and take
Yeah.
and
That's vector 10.
so you say b equals 1 to, was 1 to 10, and then
Yeah.
I think it was something like log
Log
of
x over log b.
yeah over
X was 10.
I'm going by memory here, so and see, so now this won't work because of this. So now we come in here and put that decimal point in there, and it works. And this one will
Okay.
always be not a number because log one. I mean, you
Is
can't
zero.
yeah, you can't
Yeah.
divide by
Okay.
zero. So I mean, yeah, that's a
Okay.
simple yeah. Does that answer your question, or
Yeah, it does. I ended up figuring that out. I just didn't know if there was any more to that question
that's it?
than just simply doing
I
that.
think the purpose of that question is to show you that whenever you're
To
dividing
use the
by a
dot.
matrix or a matrix, you have to have the dot or the element operator.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
Do you like us to always type in clear and stuff for each
I
question? I know
I
you get
yeah
common.
I don't require it. I probably should, but I don't. But it's good programming uh, habit to get into. The CLC, clears the command window. You can do that whenever you want to clear a command window. That one doesn't bother me so much, but this one here, I mean, if you put it at the beginning, especially when we're running, some of these homework assignments, you get 20 assignments or problems on that sheet, and if you make an assignment in problem one and don't clear it and get down to problem 19, and you
Right.
thought you defined that variable in problem 19, but you didn't, so it's using the numbers that were assigned in problem 1, which are a completely different problem. Your code will work, but it won't produce the right answer. So you sit there spending hours looking, dang, this code looks right, why isn't it giving me the right answer? And it's just a simple fact that the variable was declared in a different problem. But if you start with clear and you don't define that variable, you get, you know if we comment this here out, um, then if it's defined in there, you say, oh look, undefined var. Oh, I forgot to define b. So it's just a good habit to get into, is all.
Okay.
Unless, and there is one exception to this, if problem two works off of the results of problem one, then if you do a clear on problem two, you have to redo all the work
Yeah,
in
you
problem
lose it.
one. So you don't clear that one, but once you get done with the consecutive problems, then you clear to continue with a new fresh problem. And I will state right now, for the record, that like 99.8% of our exams, problem one, problem two, and problem three usually run together. Well,
Okay.
not necessarily one, two, or three, and not necessarily three, but there are problems that build on top of each other. Now, it's if you want to clear, you don't have to do all the retyping. You can copy and paste problem one down into problem two, but then your test gets big and ugly, and but I don't grade for beauty on the exams because you got 2 hours to get through this stuff, and you want to move fast and furious to get it all done.
Okay. The practice exercises seem to emphasize that you use a lot of the same information
Right.
and the same arrays and stuff over and over.
Yeah, and where I'm not a proficient typer, I'm getting good at the hunt and peck. I use a lot of copy and paste. A lot of code is same. It's just you have to change the syntax a little bit. And it's quicker for me to do that than it is to try and. I mean, I come from a generation where we didn't take type in school. We were using
Yeah.
hammer and chisels on stone. Yeah, I'm an old fart. What can I say?
I guess the last thing I have, and then I'll be done, is just maybe a quick review on saving one of those DAT files and then loading it.
Okay, so for example,
It seems
problems
simple.
2.21 in the
That was
homework.
one that I, yeah, that's the one I didn't.
Yeah.
for all the commands actually in there.
So we had this degrees was, I don't know, some
Yeah,
number
by radian.
is to, so let's just, I mean, and so now we're gonna take and change, convert our degrees to radians, and that's gonna be the degree, did I type that in right? Yes. Times pi divided by 180. So that is a direct conversion. There is also another option to do this if you want. We don't teach this, but it's nice to have some little benefit for showing up for these online lectures. Um, well, this isn't a lecture. This is an online session where I am here to help you and assist you to answer any and all of your questions pertaining to MATLAB. Okay, I can't define the meaning of life. That's in another class. So there is another one that's called degree to radians, and so we would say then that radians equals the degree to radians, and then we'll put in, our variable, and that'll do all the calculations for you. But we don't teach that in this class. At least I don't know. I don't think it's in the book.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
So, but it works the same. And and you can figure out how to do that. Just and there's also a rad 2 degrees. So.
So I guess all these commands, we'll after doing all this homework and practice exercises, we'll have them memorized.
You should have, yeah, and that's
Okay.
what Bill the during the semester, the first exam is going to cover obviously the stuff that we learned from day one until chapter, I think it's like 10 or 9 or something like that, but it's going to cover a specific set of the textbook. And then the second exam will pick up from where that one left off until the end of the, okay, that's where 10 comes in. So I think it's the first 6 chapters on the first exam, and then the next 5 or 6 for the second exam. But we don't focus on the material in the first part, but it's stuff that you need to know in order to, it's the basics of MATLAB. Because we're not going to sit there and grill you on how to do a plot, and but you may have to do a plot. But as I mean, does it make sense? I mean, the focus is going to be on the second exam on the material in the chapters after the first. But you still have to know the stuff from the first exam, because these first few chapters are just learning the basics.
Yeah, I still feel like I'm practicing, and I struggle to remember a lot of the, um, like what each one is. If I am trying to do absolute value, do I remember it's ABS and I
Well, and
the
that's where this help feature comes in handy. Like I was getting prepared tonight because there's a command that we're going to use, and this will come up in the online session next Sunday when I go over. And it's probably going to be too late by Sunday to do it. Maybe I'll cover a little bit of that tonight. Loading. Well, actually, it's a little bit tied into this problem we're working on right here. Is loading data files into MATLAB, and MATLAB has the ability to read in Excel files, but I don't use it enough to keep it in my brain. I know it's there, um, and I couldn't remember. Is it read XLS? And you come over here and it says, "Oh, it's not found." Oh, okay. So then it's XLS read. Um, you know, Not read, you idiot. It's help. You're an idiot. Oh, thank you. Um, and see, and this will give me all the information I need on how to use that command. Um,
So if those folders are in our current folder, we can just type in load and they'll pull it right in.
yeah,
It's in that format, XLS read.
no, this here, what this is a MATLAB function. This has nothing to do with your current folder. This is a built-in help feature inside of MATLAB. If you type
All
help
right.
and a
It's about,
command,
yeah.
it'll give you all the information it has on that. And when we get into building our own user-defined functions, basically what all this is here is it's comments after the program line to tell it that it's a function before you start your code. So this is all comment in there, and that will be printed anytime you type help and then that command. Let's see, I got a couple here. Here's a function right here. Um, and see if I come down here and put in a comment. um, and save that. And then if I come over here and type, not with an R, you idiot, help G, it'll pull it up. See, it pulls up that. Okay, so anyway, back to this problem. So we've created this. Now we gotta create our vector R to, is it no, D to R, and then we're just gonna create a matrix. Okay, and that should give us a what? Line 26. Yeah. Oh, there we go. I got. Sorry, you didn't catch that. It's not that one. It's this one down here. There we go. I had parentheses, star, square bracket. So there's the variable that we're trying to save. So now we'll come down here and we'll do save and tell it what the file name we want to save it to with the extension, which file or variable. Okay, if you don't specify a variable, it's just going to save the entire workplace. This problem specifically wanted just the degrees to radian, and then you also have to do an ASCII to tell it what format to save it as. If you don't do that, when MATLAB tries to reload it, it doesn't know what it's loading and it will kick up an error. And then this just clears out the workspace, and see, we got things in here. And then we'll now this is the important part, and this is where the reason I like this problem is because it gives you an early introduction to loading data files, because there are going to be a lot of homework problems coming up where you've got to load the data file into MATLAB to use the data in that file. I did an exam one time. I was doing some research at my office, and I used part of my research as a problem on the exam, and I gave them a data file that had nine columns with like 5,000 rows in each column. So I mean, that was a huge file, and if the students that didn't learn how to load the data in using one line of code copied and pasted the entire data file into the exam, I tell you, that was a nightmare, because I mean, it was a continuous scrolling to get past all that data. But it's simple. It's all you do is you do the load command followed by the data file name and the extension. That will load this data file, degrees.dat, when it comes in here. Oh, we're good. We'll put an S on here so it's a different than our variable. That'll load that data file into MATLAB in a variable called degrees, and it's that simple. So let's no, we're not going to clear. We're going to leave that so you can see. So see, you see all the variables are gone. Why didn't that save it into the workspace? That was supposed to save that in there. Oh, because it's over here in the current folder, not in the workspace. So the workspace is empty. So the memory is empty in MATLAB, but we come over here and there's the degrees.dat. You can see it's got today's date, and it was created a minute ago. So now we'll come in here and we'll load that file, and we'll go back to our workspace, and there it is. It's loaded in. It's 19 rows with 2 columns. And now, you know, we can come in here, and if we want to find out what number is in the 15th row of the second column. Oh, you gotta have an S on there, you idiot. Don't call me an idiot, that hurts my feelings. So there's the value that's in the 19th row, or the 15th row, second column. So did that answer your question?
Yeah, that answers it, and then I like the note that you put in there, so I'll be able to remember that, hopefully.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Okay,
That's all for me.
that's all for you. That's great. I mean, it's good to be answering questions. Anybody else got any questions? Does everybody have audio? Um,
Yeah, I have audio.
you don't have audio. Oh, you can hear me. Okay, you can hear me. Can you hear me there? If you can hear me, and they're usually an A, and but I'm running out of A's. Um, it's okay if you can't talk to me, but as long as you can hear me. Okay, that's perfect. If you have any questions, just write them in the chat window, and I'll answer your questions. Um, so I graded assignment one this morning. Apologize for the lateness of it. It's been a crazy week, and I guarantee you next week is going to be even worse than this week, um, because beginning on Wednesday, I'm tied up with Comic Con through Saturday. Um, I'll be doing 8, 9, 10 hour shifts with Comic Con, so by the time I get home, I'm just going to go straight to bed. But I will come online Sunday if anybody has questions. Also, um, well, yeah, okay. Um, I will check my email before I go into Comic Con and after I get home. I won't have access during the show. Um, but I will still check my messages um, in Canvas. So, a couple of things that I want to show on MATLAB today. Um, Things that students tend to struggle with on Chapter 3. Trig functions. Um, the default. What did I? I'm not sure. Did I put a? If I haven't put a time, I can be available anytime. Oh, dang. So, trig functions. The default format for trig functions. Oh no, I was looking to see what time I'm going to be on Sunday. See, I tell you, I only got 2 functioning brain cells, and I tell you, memory is a bad thing. So I haven't specified a time on Sunday. I'm home from church by noon, so I can go anytime people want to join. I really don't want to keep you guys up late on Sunday night. So I'll put out a feeler to see what time people want to meet, and we'll meet up at that time on Sunday. Um, um, so yeah, the trig functions are in. I gotta get my daughter out of here. We're gonna be here all night. Are in the inputs are defaulted to radians. So if you go, a is equal to the cosine of x, and let's say x is pi. Well, let's say we wanted 180 degrees. Oh, so the input of this, obviously, cosine of 180 degrees is not minus 5.6. So there's two ways that you can make that function um, to give you the correct answer. First, you can convert your variable to radians. No, what did you do? Oh, this is okay. Or, and this one's a little bit simpler. Put a D in here. It tells MATLAB that this is now a degrees input rather than radians. And that works for all your trig functions. Simple D will take radian inputs, or without it, it's no, a D takes degree inputs, and without the D, it's radians inputs. Clear as mud, right? Another thing that I cover on this online session is the mean and standard deviation. If you have a matrix or a vector, clear, let's do A equals 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 7, 5, 2. That's a funny looking 2, and you did it in the wrong place. You're an idiot. Oh, thank you. You are so very kind with your woods today. Okay, so if you do the mean on a matrix, it will return the mean for each column. So this is the mean of this column, column 1, column 2, and column 3. And the same thing with the standard deviation. That gives you the standard deviation for each column. Okay, now if you want to find the mean or the total average of the entire matrix, one way to do it is to just take the mean of the mean. Okay, so this is the average of all of the inputs in there. However, that don't work so good with this. I'm going to leave that there and assign it to a W, because if we take the standard deviation of W, what we have done is this isn't the standard deviation of this, it's the standard deviation of that, which is not the same. And we can prove that by taking our A vector and converting it from a matrix to a column vector by just doing that. That will convert A into a column vector, and now you can find the standard deviation of the entire matrix. Because well, we can show you here that this is now one row or one column of values instead of 3 rows. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. It made sense when I was thinking about it, but sometimes loses translation between the brain and the mouth. Okay, so now one final thing that is a hiccup for students in this chapter and the preceding chapters to come afterwards. If you have a time vector, or any vector, doesn't have to be time, but a lot of them what we deal in this class are time related. Okay, so basically I just created a vector. Ooh, that's going to be a lot of numbers. I'm going to cut that down to 10. That's still going to be a lot of numbers. That's going to be like 40 numbers. 42, that's close. So here's a time vector, and I purposely did a non-integer increment because I'll explain that in a minute. So now we have some position vector, and I'm just going to make this real simple. 3 times time dot raised to the 2 minus 4. I don't know, it just sounded like a good number. Oh, let's multiply that by time and add 5. There you go. That one's cool. Okay, so if we want to see what that looks like, we can just do a simple plot. You'll learn plots here in chapter 4, so don't sweat yet. So there's the plot of our thing, and that's not going to work either because I need a max and min. This is going to have to be a Where'd you go? Okay, let's give it a sign. I tell you, I would much rather take an exam than write one. Um, Actually, let's go back here and do this and take this from minus 10. That should give us a parabola here somehow, some way. There we go. Um, so this gives us a parabola, and we want to find out where the 0 point here is. You'll learn the max and min function in this chapter. So if you do, we don't want the max, we want the min. And this works for both max and min. If we want to find the minimum value of y, if we just type in min y, there's our minimum value of y, 3.7008. But we want to know where on our time vector that occurs. So if you come in here and if you assign a single variable to the output of min or max, it will return the min or max of your input. However, if you assign two variables to it, it will now return two values. The first one is, in this case, the minimum value. The second one is the location within the y vector where this minimum value resides. This is its element number. And now to find the time, you look inside of the time vector at the same location. And that tells you that the minimum happens at 0.56 time units, whatever time units are. So if we make this a little bigger, down here at about 0.56 is where the right in there is where the minimum value is. So this, but this is how you find the time of a maximum or minimum, or there is one problem where you're following the position of a projectile and it wants to know when it hits the ground. So you would find well, that comes in a fine, but you find where the value of the height changes to a negative, and then you take that and find what time. Clear as mud. I probably confused the bejeemies out of you. Is there any questions on that? Is that did I make it too complex? Did anybody understand that? Anybody still awake?
Yeah, I think it was good to show that you're using the location of time, which was your variable.
Right.
So make sure you put location in.
Yeah, it does. I use location because to me that makes sense. You can put anything in here you want. I mean, you could call this Fred, and Control Z, and it's just a variable name. But I use location because to me that's a good descriptor. Tells me what it is I'm looking for. But yeah, location is a good one. But yeah, and see what a lot of students do when this isn't like that. If this is by ones, now we read that, okay, the answer is 1. But see, it returned 12. So instead of doing this, they would say, oh well, oops, come on. Okay, well, that's not 12, so it's going to be Fred divided by 12. Okay, see, I got the right answer now. But that's not what you want to do, because I mean, I could show you some of the programs that I wrote for my research I was doing, and if I was to have to calculate, instead of pulling the numbers off, I mean, it'd be a nightmare because every time the data changed, I'd have to go in and change that. This makes it universal for anything. And that's one thing to understand too when we get into loading data files. You guys have a set of data files that you use to create your homework. I have different data files here that are similar in size, as far as the number of columns, but I may have more rows. So if you do yours to only do 5 rows and I'm sitting here with 7, it's not a good thing. Okay, is there anything else on my list here? Nope, that was the end of what I usually cover on the second session. Any questions, comments, wants, needs, desires, concerns, complaints? Hopefully no complaints. It's too early in the semester for complaints yet. You haven't got to meet the real me yet. Oh, heaven help us. I will stick around for SolidWorks, yeah, if anybody's got SolidWorks questions. Are you just SolidWorks, Todd? I thought that you were here last in MATLAB last semester, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. I'm SolidWorks this semester.
So you just wanted a refresher course in MATLAB?
Yeah.
Are you doing
Never hurts.
Are you doing Holly's numeric